The biggest coffee deal in history. Coffee was initially grown in Ethiopia in the 9th century, and by the middle of the 15th century it had spread around the world. Only the wealthy were served coffee when it arrived in Italy in the second half of the 16th century via commercial Mediterranean trade routes, but now coffee seems to be ubiquitous. In modern-day society, it seems like everyone enjoys a good cup of coffee. While the coffee trade hasn't always been so straightforward throughout history, there have been some huge coffee deals that have rocked the industry. One of the largest coffee deals occurred recently on the well-known show Shark Tank, where entrepreneurs pitch their products to rich investors. Do you want to find out more about this million-dollar coffee deal? Keep watching our video to find out everything you need to know, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Shark Tank and the biggest coffee deal in history. Kane Bodium, the CEO of iCapsulate, received more funding from a single shark than has ever been distributed in the history of the Australian program Shark Tank. Shark Tank Australia's third season saw an appearance by Kane Bodium in 2017, who had practiced his pitch more than 500 times. He arrived with the audacious demand of $2.5 million for 15% of his business. The founder began discussing iCapsulate's financial results, which caught the investors off guard. They were astounded by the business's ability to generate millions in income in such a short amount of time. Andrew Banks, a self-made millionaire and former CEO of Talent2 International, closed the sale and received 22.5% of the business in exchange. Mr. Banks wasn't the only shark in the area. Dr. Glenn Richards of Pet Barn and Naomi Simpson of Red Balloon both contributed the $2.5 million, but in exchange for a bigger stake in the company. According to Mr. Bodium, iCapsulate was currently worth $16.6 million on the market. The sharks appeared equally impressed by Mr. Bodium's resume, despite the fact that it was a good sales pitch. Due to a conflict of interest arising from her ownership of a coffee company, Janine Alice of Boost Juice fame and a Paleo Cafe investor withdrew from the conversation. Bodium claimed that 6 months prior he had even been offered $25 million for his business, but turned it down. Mr. Banks was the first to bite, asking $2.5 million for 25%. Mr. Bodium and his fiancée ultimately decided to accept Mr. Banks's counter-offer of 22.5% for $2.5 million. What is iCapsulate? iCapsulate is an Australian coffee business that makes biodegradable coffee pods. When Kane Bodium, a firm co-owner, appeared on Shark Tank Australia in 2017, Andrew Banks offered him a staggering $2.5 million proposal in exchange for a 22.5% interest. This was the largest Shark Tank deal in history. The coffee capsules made by iCapsulate were marketed as being sustainable and environmentally beneficial. Kane Bodium is the owner of iCapsulate. Bodium also holds a degree from the University of Technology, Sydney, and is the proprietor of the National Barista Academy, according to his LinkedIn profile. Bodium appeared on the third season of the Shark Tank television program to request funding for his business. His original offer for a 15% stakeholder share was $2.5 million. Shark Andrew Banks agreed to a $2.5 million deal in exchange for a 22.5% share. About the founder of iCapsulate. Kane Bodium is an Australian native who graduated from the University of Technology, Sydney, with a degree in mechanical engineering. He became a coffee machine technician after specialising in coffee machine repairs at college. He was employed as a technical expert by Douwe Egberts, a Dutch beverage manufacturer, and Gloria Jean's Coffee. Although Kane was a staff member at Mad Coffee Capsule, he asserted on social media that he was the business's owner. His former employer filed a lawsuit against him as a result in 2015. The judge ruled that Bodium acted deceptively and commanded him to stop posing as a Mad Coffee Capsule executive. After the deal, it was done, Andrew Banks and Kane Bodiam closed one of the largest deals in Shark Tank history. Sadly, the agreement was never finalized. Bodiam was questioned about all the assertions he made during his pitch 8 months after completing the transaction on television. It was discovered that iCapsulate wasn't even affiliated with any notable retail chains, and that they weren't the sole manufacturer of biodegradable coffee pods. 2018 saw the administration of iCapsulate. Bodiam made an effort to explain that this was the result of a conflict between shareholders and directors within the company. The businessman is currently invisible, though. The fall of iCapsulate. Nearly a year after the deal, Banks stated that the agreement with iCapsulate eventually failed, partially because the firm's promises that its biodegradable capsules were environmentally friendly were untrue. Depending on who you ask, there are several explanations for why the $2.5 million contract was not fulfilled. The transaction was later cancelled while it was still in the due diligence stage. When asked why the deal fell through, Bodiam and Banks give quite different explanations. As a result, iCapsulate has entered voluntary administration. The company once received the largest transaction ever on the Australian version of Shark Tank, but the sale was plagued by controversy in the months that followed its airing. Finding the truth can be challenging because of the turbulent pasts of both iCapsulate and Shark Tank, which is rife with contradictory he-said statements. iCapsulate's value is $0 as of this year, as it went out of business in 2018. The enormous coffee market was worth roughly $460 billion in 2022. Brazil is the world's largest producer of coffee, producing 63.4 million bags in 2020. It's clear that the coffee trade has been an important part of the global economy for many centuries, and it's interesting to think that one of the largest coffee deals in history occurred just a few years ago. Now that you're aware of the biggest coffee deal that occurred on Shark Tank, you can make the decision yourself. Would you have invested that much money in iCapsulate if you were a wealthy investor on the show? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to leave future video suggestions as well. As always, be sure to click the bell to receive notifications, and we'll catch you in the next one.